Thomas Paine, Thomas Paine, Thomas Paine, Sam Adams, Sam Adams, Sam Adams, Benjamin Franklin, Benjamin Franklin, Benjamin Franklin. These men spoke up for what they thought was right. From their courage came such documents as the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution of the United States. From their willingness to speak what was sometimes unpopular but right, we enjoy such liberties as freedom of speech, the right to keep and bear arms, and freedom of religion. There are those who still wish to oppress our freedoms, and there are still patriots willing to stand up and defend life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Men like Zeb Bell, who honor our founding fathers and what they stood for. It's now time for Zeb at the ranch, speaking up and defending your freedoms. Brought to you by Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers and all of the other great advertisers on the program. And now, Zeb Bell.
A gentleman by the name of Edward Everett Hale said this: I am only one, but I am one. I cannot do everything, but I can do something. And I will not let what I cannot do interfere with what I can do. And by the grace of God, I will. Amen. Hey, here comes Kate Smith and God Bless America, followed by a Patriot with our Pledge of Allegiance. Come on, call in. Good morning, good morning. And a good August 1st to you. Yep, it is new month, August 1st, Wednesday. Good morning, Zeb at the Ranch. I'm Zeb Bell. And, of course, with our major sponsor, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers, all 7 locations serving you, serving the key word. You stop in and see them today. And don't forget some of our great advertisers like Burley Physical Therapy and Rehabilitation at 1263 Bennett Avenue, Suite 2 in Burley, helping you get back to being you. Right now, let's go to the phone line and have our Pledge of Allegiance. Good morning.
Well, good morning, sir.
Well, go ahead.
Yes, sir. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Well done, McGee. And right now, let's go with our weather forecast. And it's sponsored by K&R Rental at 256 South, 600 West of Hayburn, right there on the Burley-Paul Highway. And the number to call, 678-3122. Boy, they've got weed mowers, air compressors to clean out your combine, small excavators to dig new water lines. They got it all, boy, for long and short-term usage. You better get a hold of them today. K&R Rental, 256 South, 600 West of Hayburn. Right now, here's Gina with the weather.
Here's your weather forecast for this Wednesday, and again, smoky conditions as we have a big fire burning up in the Wood River Valley, and then, of course, we've got the Grouse Creek fire burning over the border in Utah and Nevada. So we are expecting some more isolated showers and thunderstorms by this afternoon, about a 20% chance of precipitation. Smoke will continue to linger. However, it is supposed to be mostly sunny and hot, expecting a high of 97. Slightly breezy as well. Tonight, more isolated rain showers and thunderstorms are a possibility before midnight. Partly cloudy skies with a low of 64. Tomorrow, again, 20% chance of rain showers and thunderstorms in the afternoon. It is going to be smoky, mostly sunny skies, expecting a high of 92. Winds are going to be out of the east, right around 10 miles an hour. Gusts as possible is 22 miles an hour. For Friday, sunny skies, cooling down to 87. Saturday, sunny skies, mid-80s. That's your weather forecast for Zeb at the Ranch.
I kind of like that. Thank you, Gina. Appreciate it. Brought to everybody by K&R Rental, and they're right there on the Burley-Paul Highway. You couldn't miss them. Don't call them if you can't run over 678-3122. Roger and the crew at K&R Rental. Really good people. Today, full day at the Minidoka County Fair. Holy moly, you don't want to miss a minute of it. It is your Minidoka 70th Annual County Fair. Building dreams at the Minidoka County Fair. And today, Wednesday, August 1st, they've got that antique engine show from noon to 7 p.m. in the grass area. Then the Lions Barbecue tonight at 5:30. All you can eat. Boy, they're in trouble. And then then right after that, they're going to have the Fairboard Special with the Fairboard Social, cobbler and ice cream, and then tonight also the first perf of the Junior Rodeo at the Minidoka County Fair. 70th annual, don't you miss it. It is your county fair. Boy, I tell you what, anybody out there, and I mean this when I say this, anyone out there that knows or can provide or will supply some information about how the Grouse Creek fire is, and anybody you know affected, etc., I'd like to have some calls in this first hour and let us know. Our hearts and prayers go out to everyone, and I mean this, everyone that may be affected by these fires, their livestock, their property, their grazing, everything. And I certainly want you to know that both Deanne and I extend thoughts and prayers to everyone that may be affected. Give me a call, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Want to remind you, too, about Ramsey Heating and Electric at 2600 Overland Avenue in Burley. And this isn't brag, this is a fact. All your heating, cooling, and electrical needs right there with a company that is going to be celebrating very soon over 60 years in business. That is amazing. And they've got the most top quality people serving you, Ramsey Heating and Electric. 2600 Overland Avenue in Burley. They're open 7:30 to 5, Monday through Friday. And the number to call, 678-0459. And real quick before we start taking your calls, I want to remind you about Denny's Restaurant. You need to cool off a little bit. Holy cow, yesterday afternoon about 5:30, went over to my son-in-law, Nick Cummins, and Toby, and we roped a little bit, and I thought I was going to croak. It was hot out there with the smoke and everything. Well, cool off and go to Denny's Restaurant at 611 North Overland and Burley, and also another location at 291 Pole Line Road in Twin Falls. Ooh, they've got some great treats for you. Breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and desserts, and everything. Super people serving you. You just go on in, sit down, and go, what a great menu, and make your choices. You're going to love it at America's Diner, Denny's Restaurant, 611 North Overland in Burley. Caller, good morning to you. How are you?
Good morning. You seem extra cheerful today.
Well, it's amazing how much of a false front we can build.
Well, it's good to hear you're doing good anyway. But I'd like to think of an old adage of when you put lobsters in boiling water, several of them, and if one of them tries to climb out, the others will pull him back down. This reminds me so much of the Democratic Party, because if you even indicate that you want to do what is right, they'll blackball you in a second, won't they?
You know, that's a very, very well-stated analogy, and I'd never thought of that. I appreciate that, Keith. It's the Stay With Us in the Sewer campaign that is going on with the Democrats, and there are Democrats that want to get out of the sewer, and they want to climb up on the edge of the pool, and they want to start to do things and fly right, but the rest of them keep dragging them down. I think that's a good analogy.
Well, if we had somebody in Idaho, say like against Mike Simpson, that was really a conservative and everything else, and he was a Democrat, I just may vote for him.
Well, I'm going to tell you, we have a little problem here I want to address with Wheels, Keith. We got a little crackling on the line. Stay on the line for a minute, Keith. Oh, we've had some phone problems here this morning, and Wheels, we kept calling and talking to you, but you couldn't hear me evidently. How are we coming through now?
Oh, you sound great now, but yeah, there for a minute I couldn't hear you, and so if you were able to hear me, I just was letting you call back.
All right. Thank you. Thank you. All right, calls are welcome. I believe we're back in business. I have no idea what the phone gremlins did this morning, but hopefully we've got them shuttled off into oblivion. But give us a call, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Want to remind you the Cassia County Fair is coming up before too long, and a lot of the merchants in that area welcome you to the Cassia County Fair. Golden Valley Warehouse, 468 West, 1000 South of Burley. Don't forget, quality seed, barley, wheat, triticale, oats, alfalfa, competitive prices. They're there to serve you at the Golden Valley Warehouse. And Mountain Transmissions, 1146 East Main in Burley. And Rick and the crew, boy, I'll tell you what, the greatest and latest technology available to serve you at Mountain Transmissions. And Kelly Bearing at 1407 East Main in Burley. And believe me, you don't have to waste your time or your money running all over the place. They've got all your bearings, chains, brackets, everything. You'll know where you're at when you get your bearings at Kelly's. Absolutely the truth. And those are just a few great merchants and businesses asking you to attend the Cassia County Fair. Now, I'm going to tell you that August 11th, Saturday, they're going to have their concert, and it's going to be with Asleep at the Wheel and Casey Donahue. Oh, wow, what a concert that's going to be. And then on Sunday, August 12th, they continue the fun with the Monster Truck Show. This is going to be great, and we'll tell you more events as they come up on our sheet right here for the Cassia County Fair and Rodeo for 2018. Don't you miss it. All right, calls are welcome and appreciated. 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Give me a call if you would, please. I would love to hear from you. So, there we go. Imagine this. Universal income, you know, the just giving people money, hoping to improve their lives and create what the givers say is equality. Well, I got some news for them, folksies. It does not work. The United Kingdom tried it, and Canada tried it, and they stopped it because it does not work. It's too expensive, and it has no good results, and it actually breeds contempt for anyone getting off the couch with their fat butt and going to work. So hopefully universal income and the idiocy that's trying to make it popular here in the United States will go by the wayside. Caller, good morning. You're on the air. Quickly, go ahead.
Yes, good morning, Zeb. I really can't understand why people don't realize that this country is under siege from without and from within. And it can't go on this way. We've got a lot of people out there that if they realized what was going on, they would side up with Donald Trump. We've got a Rip Van Winkle society out here.
Well, I'm not so sure it's a Rip Van Winkle society that they're asleep, Tony. I think that they, being the left and the liberals and the Democrats, they are in lockstep with a four-letter word. Hate. They hate Donald Trump so bad. They hate Donald Trump so bad as president, they don't care if Tony or Zeb or Mary or Deanne, they all go down the tube. They couldn't care less about America. They're only filled with hate because their side got a slap in the face when the election of Donald Trump put him in office and the left was told, we don't want you anymore.
Well, maybe they don't realize that this Democratic people don't realize that they're siding with the terrorists, and when they break the fabric of this country down, the terrorists are out there waiting.
Well, there's no question about that. There's no question about the terrorists, but then also what they're doing by the hate Trump movement, never Trump anymore, get rid of Trump, we'll never stand up for Trump, we're going to do all we can to denigrate Trump. All they're doing is hurting America. These people are despicable. Tony, you know, you listened every day, and you know this is true. I detested Barack Obama. I could not stand him as president, but There were many, many programs I put on the air, and I can prove it to what's in the archives, the taping of the show. I absolutely wanted him to succeed because if he succeeded, then America succeeded. But the left and the Democrats are only filled with hate.
You know, what will happen to our country, the economy, and everything else that's going very well if he doesn't make it in 2018?
Yeah.
We're going to slide back to the days of Barack Obama?
Yeah, that's what the left wants. I mean, they're wishing for potholes and Volkswagens to fall into those potholes. They don't care about the American public. All they care about is their selfish self. And I'm fed up with their attitude. We've got a lot of good things going. The GNP in this country is at over 4.1%. We've got a president that stands up for America and says, don't you dare cross that red line and you'll get slapped in the nose. I like that kind of attitude, and I'm sick and tired of the mamby-pambies.
Well, I enjoy the George W. Patton in Trump.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Tony, God bless you, man. Thanks for your call.
You're welcome.
All right, buddy. Hey, I want to remind everybody, too, as I get my papers all scattered. I lost a lot of stuff here this morning. I covered it up. Don't forget Dino Septic Service. I want to remind you about these great, great people that do a job that you and I don't want to do. Oh, I don't want to stand out there and pump a septic tank. Oh, liquid waste removal or septic tanks and drain fields installed, sewer and sink drain lines cleaned. Call them. Call them. Dino Septic Service. Rupert number 436-6526. Burley 678-1638. Fast, fair, friendly service on the job, helping you absolutely with that big truck that says smells cargo on the way. Dino Septic Service. You get a hold of them today. Also, real quick, and then I'd like some more phone calls. Come on, don't let me down. Burley Physical Therapy and Rehabilitation at 1263 Bennett Avenue, Suite 2 in Burley. Right after this month of August, I can guarantee you that I'm going to be getting hold of Nick Greenwell and saying, Nick, I need some help. I got to get back down there again. I've got some muscles that aren't really going along with the rest of the body. I need to have them march in unison. Well, Burley Physical Therapy and Rehabilitation can help me. They have, and they can help you. They will. At 1263 Bennett Avenue, Suite 2 in Burley. I mean, give them a call, make an appointment. They can help you get back to being you. 678-1191, the number to call. Burley Physical Therapy and Rehabilitation. Please call them today. Well, I just don't understand, honestly, what's going on with this giveaway. I had my lovely bride this morning. As a matter of fact, I had to reach over here and get this. And she printed off about 12, 13 pages of the idiocy of giving people money and really not earning it or doing anything for that money. And at the very end of these lengthy stories of pros and cons about universal income, it said here, quote, if we cannot financially maintain our current system, it would be unwise to believe we could somehow afford a UBI, which means universal income. And it was said that when comparing one welfare system with the other, it's old wine in new bottles. Redistributive, 70s-style taxation under a trendy new branding. In other words, the Democrats and the liberals are just trying to wrap it up in a new bow and try to sell it, and it's just not going to work. Calls welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. You know, and the concept of saying, like they did down in California, and they're starting it now, the concept of pushing universal income back in Chicago area and other parts of Illinois and over in New York with de Blasio and some others. Oh, well, these people are underprivileged. Oh, these people just really don't have a chance at equality. Yeah, they do. It's called getting some incentive and getting an education utilizing an education and looking up to the good Lord above and praying that he will help you get out of your dire straits and put forth your best efforts, that he created talent in you to go out and you can succeed if you try. But no, a lot of these people just want it handed to them on a monthly basis. And you and I foot the bill. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Good morning again. You still have a crackling in
Thank you for telling me something that is obvious. I appreciate it. Go ahead. I don't know what the problem is. Go ahead.
Okay. The other day, my wife and I were talking about something, and I asked her, can you think of one thing that Barack Obama did to make America great again? And she couldn't think of anything, and I can't either. And if you can, I would like to know what it is.
You know, I'm not a good person to ask about that, because all I saw was a deterioration of the moral values and the ethical values and the constitutional values that were in this country. I heard some dimwit on television the other evening, I believe it was on Hannity, and they were espousing the fact that Barack Obama was the greatest president ever, and I sit there and I thought to myself, please enumerate all the wonderful things that he did and accomplished. I can't wait. I'm holding my breath. I turned blue because I didn't hear any.
Oh, that's absolutely right, because there's just nothing there, an empty suit, if that's what we call it.
Yeah.
And on the other hand, Donald Trump has done a marvelous job of bringing this country around, like you mentioned about the gross national product. It is phenomenal. Now, if the election were held today and Barack Obama had another chance to try to spoil this country, I think Trump could win hands down, even with all these negative Democrats. So
I'm not going to say, Keith, because I'm very concerned as to the devilish attitude on the left. And the only reason that they want the open borders is because they're trying to buy and manipulate votes so they can go back into power again. You know that. You don't have to read a book.
It's true. I don't understand the Democrats. I mean, when they know it's wrong, and they will still stick up for it. That's the part I can't understand.
Well, I look at people like Joe Manchin.
Black and white.
I look at people like Joe Manchin, and Democrat Joe Manchin, and he's got a lot of common sense. He's got a lot of decency, and he's got a lot of America in him. And many, many times he's stepped out of the fold of the Democratic Party and the wants and the wish list of the party platform. And he's been a man and stood up for his own values, which tended to be in support of Trump and also the Republicans. I just wish more people were like that had the common sense to use common sense in the Democratic Party.
How did his meeting turn out with Kavanaugh?
Well,
he was going to grill him.
I think that Kavanaugh is going to be. I think Kavanaugh is going to go through. I think we're going to see this deal with Schumer. What was it? He's trying to get a whole bunch of pages of information and everything. Schumer's probably not smart enough to read those pages of information. Here we have a guy that's going to be on the Supreme Court. He's going to be there. He is going to be there, and the Democrats are going to sit there and wail and cry and tear their hair out and set their hair on fire, but he's going to be there, and it's just a waste of time and money for all this arbitration.
Just stalling.
Amen. I got to run. Thanks, Keith. Appreciate it. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, I apologize for the cracking on the line this morning. And Wheels, once again, short answer, how bad is it over there on this line? And maybe we'll have to reestablish again at 9 o'clock.
It's still about the same as it was before. I think reestablishing the call at 9 o'clock would be great.
Okay, thank you very much. I appreciate that. All right, Berry Equipment and Rental, sales, service, and parts. They've got all the Doosan's heavy equipment. I mean, man, you need a big job done. Well, they've got the Doosan loaders. They've got all the Doosan equipment. Woo! woo, this stuff is good. This equipment can really help you. And then also all the Bobcat excavators, all shapes and sizes. And they've got the equipment rentals and the retail equipment sales of everything. But you know what? They've got really knowledgeable people. And Barry Equipment Rental, Sales, Service, and Parts at 159 West Highway 30 in Burley with Juan, 465 Addison Avenue West in Twin with Eli, and the Nampa location. I urge you to get a hold of them. Talk to them. Tell them, hey, we don't know how to run the equipment. They got a big sandbox out behind. They'll teach you. Barry Equipment and Rental. You get a hold of them today. Burley, Twin Falls, and Nampa. Caller, I'll be right there. Also want to remind everybody, on Monday, we give away a dozen cookies to Sophie's Chatterbox at 530 East Street in Rupert. Oh, what a restaurant. Oh, what a bakery. I'm telling you, great, great food. And they can make the best of cookies and pies and cakes, wedding cakes, everything at Sophie's Chatterbox on the square in Rupert. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Good morning, sir.
Yes, my friend.
Did you see on the news where those protesters that were shutting down ICE, the mess they left behind?
It was absolutely deplorable. What people should do is take photographs and make them into posters and send them all over just before the midterms in November. This is what the Democrats want to do to America.
Exactly. The same thing they did on that Keystone Pipeline or whatever pipeline that was. I mean, they left filth behind. So that tells me right there, this left that is preaching global warming and you got to take care of the environment does not give a darn about the environment.
You know, that point is so well said, Doug. They rail and go on and on about the environment. Oh, the Republicans are killing the environment. People like Zeb Bell are advocating the death of the environment. Baloney. And the only reason I use the word baloney is because I can't use the cowboy terminology.
Well,
I am
works real good.
I am absolutely adamant that Democrats and the liberals and their followers are absolutely mindless freaks when it comes to destroying the habit. Look at what's going on in the liberalized cities of like Chicago and San Francisco. Look at the filth that they're allowing to gather.
Exactly. Yeah, like in Chicago, those moms that are having to hide their kids inside their house.
Unbelievable.
They're afraid to let them go out and play.
Unbelievable.
Being shot. They're calling for him. Oh, what's his name?
Rahm Emanuel.
Right. They're calling for him to be stepped down.
Well, why shouldn't they?
They should. They should march on his house.
What good is that guy? Tell me one thing that he's done good for the city of Chicago. One thing. Go ahead, Doug. You have the floor.
Don't hold your breath, because I'm thinking.
I'm turning blue, Dougie.
I know it. Same thing as Obama, what he did for this country.
Yeah.
I mean, you look at all of these cities, Los Angeles, Chicago, Milwaukee, Washington, D.C., Chicago, St. Louis. They have been run by Democrats for decades, and look at where they're at.
How can the city of San Francisco, have you ever been to San Francisco?
I was in the 70s.
I have been there many, many times because in the rodeo business, if I wasn't there for an event or in that area, I flew a lot to get connecting flights out of San Francisco. I visited the city. I've been around the city, etc. It's a beautiful, absolutely beautiful city and area. The Bay, it's just phenomenal. And now to think that the human defecation and the drug needles and all the other filth is so prominent in the city streets and on the city streets that tourists can't stand the stench and the smell and they're scared to walk anywhere. How can anybody in their right mind say that their city council and their mayor is doing a quote-unquote good job?
Yeah, that's just it. Right there, you said it just perfectly. They do not care about the environment, about the people, about this country. All they want is power, and they want absolute power by being a dictator.
What kind of a campaign speech, honestly, could a city council member running for re-election, what kind of things could they tell the audience? Well, gee, I know that we have human defecation and waste all over the streets. And yes, we know that we have a lot of syringes and drug problems all over the streets, but re-elect me so we can have more of it.
No, that's true. I got a customer, got to run.
All right, buddy. Talk to you later. Thank you very much. Calls welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Now, hold on, caller. I'll be right there. I want to also remind you, we're doing a whole bunch of county fairs on this program, and we don't want to eliminate or overshadow anyone, and I want to tell you a little bit about the Jerome County Fair and Rodeo, and especially the PRCA Rodeo in Jerome, and it's going to be August 7, 8, and 9. Don't forget that. PRCA Rodeo action at its best. Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, August 7, 8, and 9 at the Jerome County Fairgrounds. Then, on Friday, August 10th, ooh, my goodness sakes, they're going to have Jesse G., great country artist, in concert at 7 p.m., and that's going to be military night, too. Bring your military ID and get in for free. Going to be great at the Jerome County Fair, and that's August 7th through the 11th. Don't you miss it. Also, real quick, the Bennett boys have got a big sale. Caller, I'm a-coming. Don't go away. Bennett boys are going to have a great big sale coming up on this Saturday, August 4th, and it's going to be in Twin Falls, Idaho. It's a warehouse closeout auction at 139 3rd Avenue South, okay? From the Depot Grill, go north 3 blocks and then east a half a block. Can't miss it. They're going to have antiques and collectibles, glassware, antique furniture, all kinds of furniture, household items, sporting items, tools. Woo, what a sale. Good sale. Warehouse closeout auction in Twin on Saturday, August 4th at 10 a.m. Managed by the Bennett Boys Auction Service. No sale too big, no sale too small. The Bennett Boys, yep, they sell them all. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Yeah, good morning, Zeb. Hello?
Yes, I'm waiting for you. Go ahead.
Oh, man, I got off. It sounded like a dead space there. Sorry about that, but it just felt like I got cut off. Anyway, so your previous caller is right. You take it on a global scheme. The whole thing is that, the environmentalists, those same people that are protesting nice with all the junk and so forth, that you see the filth and the debris, it's unbelievable. And so, but this is socialism, communism, and it's what it's about, like Genghis Khan. So the Chinese are moving in here, and we're allowing them to buy up. They destroy. They leave filth and pillage and plunder behind, and then they have to move on. Well, the Chinese communists are having to do this. The environmentalists, of course, are like watermelons. They're green on the outside, totally red on the inside. and this is a problem that we've got to face, is that our education system is teaching our youth at all levels, from kindergarten through college, to be good little socialists. And, of course, it doesn't work. It never has worked. And we better be aware of this Paulette Jordan that's running for governor in the Democratic Party. She's a Bernie Sanders socialist, and they're going to wrap her up. She's going to be like, Sacagawea and, Pocahontas wrapped in American flag, Zeb.
Yeah, but wait a minute. Adrian, come up for air for a minute. Let me speak to you. You got to admit, when you read the headline the other day in the paper about Paulette Jordan, certainly you, that has followed politics for years, you had to scratch your head a little bit and say, Paulette Jordan, claims she is going to be a progressive conservative. Would you explain that to me, please?
I'm sorry, I have to laugh when I see that kind of headline, progressive conservative. There's nothing, you talk about fake news and fake headlines. She'll be progressive. There's nothing progressive. It's regressive. Socialism, fascism, communism, Nazism is all regressive because they, like I say, they destroy everything. Just look at Venezuela today. The people don't have toilet paper. They don't have food. They're eating their dogs and their cats because that's the only food's available. And, Zimbabwe, when they took over Rhodesia, kicked out the Shah of Iran, And they can't even feed themselves now, and they're with a breadbasket of Africa.
I agree with you.
South Africa's the same problem.
I agree with everything you said, and I tell you what, whoa, stop your horse for a second, Adrian. I've got calls lined up, and I do want to get everybody in before I have to go to the news, but what you said is always right, and I want to get you on the program one of these quick days and talk about the environment with the left and how they're destroying more than anything our environment and our beauty in our country. But thank you for your call this morning.
You got to get out of the UN. That's where it all comes from.
I agree. Thank you, sir. I agree with that. Caller, sorry to keep you waiting. You're on deck. Go ahead.
That must be the good news guy.
Well, it is, Joseph. How are you?
I'm fine. We're going to have ham with pineapple for lunch today at the senior center.
Okay.
And we'll have some taters and other vegetables. We're going to have fresh fruit cocktail. Oh, we'll have some green salad. And we better have some chocolate chip cookies.
Now, I waited for you to say the word during that whole menu, and you never said it once. Are you slipping? Why didn't you use the word yummy?
I made up the chocolate chip cookie so I didn't have to say the word.
Joe, doggone you, it's good to hear from you. Call me again tomorrow and let me know what all the good eats are at the Senior Junction.
Volunteer help to help put up in the mornings at the Senior Center to help put up the Meals on Wheels.
All right. And what's the best number for people to call and get more information?
208-878-8646. So get through.
Oh, you did a great job. Joe, God bless you, man. Have a wonderful day and save me a cookie.
All right, I'll do it.
All right, buddy. Thank you. We've got a little weather forecast on here, and then when I come back, I want to talk to you about that Connecticut councilwoman that acted absolutely stupid again. Okay? Right now, the weather brought to you by our friends at Mount Harrison Audiology and Hearing Aids, Dr. Pickup, and, of course, Dr. Mitchell. Whoa, they do a great job serving you and your family with your hearing health. Please remember they're right behind the Minidoka Hospital across from the emergency room in Rupert. And I'll tell you what, the number to call, make an appointment for a hearing screening. They help me. They can help you. All right, 312-0957. Here is Gina with the weather.
Here's your weather forecast for this Wednesday, and again, smoky conditions as we have a big fire burning up in the Wood River Valley, and then, of course, we've got the Grouse Creek fire burning over the border in Utah and Nevada. So we are expecting some more isolated showers and thunderstorms by this afternoon, about a 20% chance of precipitation. Smoke will continue to linger. However, it is supposed to be mostly sunny and hot, expecting a high of 97. Slightly breezy as well. Tonight, more isolated rain showers and thunderstorms are a possibility before midnight. Partly cloudy skies with a low of 64. Tomorrow, again, 20% chance of rain showers and thunderstorms in the afternoon. It is going to be smoky, mostly sunny skies, expecting a high of 92. Winds are going to be out of the east, right around 10 miles an hour. Gusts is possible, 22 miles an hour. For Friday, sunny skies, cooling down to 87. Saturday, sunny skies, mid-80s. That's your weather forecast for Zeb at 3.
Oh, hopefully things are going to get a little better. Cooler, I hope. There we go. By golly, and the weather brought to you by Mount Harrison Audiology and Hearing Aids. Wonderful people that really know all about hearing loss and hearing health. Please get a hold of them today. Mount Harrison Audiology and Hearing Aids. The number to call for an appointment, 312-0957. Wonderful people serving you. Oh, and I know some other people that are great folks serving you, and that's Stotz Equipment, your John Deere dealer at 119 Overland in Burley. Oh, they sponsor the Ag Minutes every Tuesday at 9:46. Thank you. And Stotz Equipment Company, your John Deere dealer, making your life easier. Absolutely. Calls are welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Remember the town in, I think it's Hamal or something like that, Connecticut. I apologize. That name slips me right now. But it's a small Connecticut town, and one of the council women, I believe there are 4 people on the city council, 3 women and 1 man. Remember about a week and a half, 2 weeks ago, we talked about one of the council women that when they started the Pledge of Allegiance at the city council meeting, she got out of her chair and kneeled, bowing her head during the national anthem, showing complete disrespect, much like the NFL football players, but doing it during the Pledge of Allegiance. They thought that maybe the word had got through to this woman that is not acceptable in this small Connecticut town. The citizens of the town, thought that they had talked to her enough and had given her enough information about why they didn't like that, why they didn't like her representing them and then showing disrespect for our Pledge of Allegiance. But they were wrong. She did it again. And she did it in a blatant, in-your-face action when the room was filled with veterans of many past conflicts and wars. It was totally disrespectful. And then this woman that is supposed to represent her constituents was caught on a live mic saying, "This town is too racist and fascist." Now, I don't know if they still have some of the stocks that they had back in the 16 and 1700s, but I certainly hope they can find some. Or maybe a beam where they could tar and feather her and run her out of town. I know it sounds harsh. But I certainly would not want her representing me on any city council and blatantly showing her disrespect for our country, our flag, our Constitution, taking a knee when all the audience at this particular meeting was almost comprised of our veterans who put their lives on the line and who lost many of their comrades fighting for this country. How dare she? If she wants to go out during the day and condemn the city for being fascist and racist, and if she wants to go out during the day and condemn this country and condemn Donald Trump as president, but she's been doing this before Donald Trump even was elected as president. I think the city council and the city need to have a recall and throw her out. What are your thoughts? Would you really want to go to a city council meeting and, the American spirit with the American flag, and right before the event starts, they get up and they say, "Now, please rise, we're going to have our Pledge of Allegiance," and you've got one of the people that your town voted in taking a knee in total disrespect for our country? I think not. Throw her out. Calls welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Give me a call, please. I got to get this story in here real quick. Did you hear that now? Well, I'll get to that story in a moment. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Kick her right square in the backside and send her flying.
Ma'am, I don't know you, but every time you call and I can see or hear that you're emotionally upset, sometimes when you start, you scare me.
Well, and you were talking about people disrespecting the flag, and I don't remember whether it was a pro football player, a basketball player, or the commissioner of the NFL or whatever. But anyway, somebody said the effect that how did they put it? They said that the national anthem and the kneeling was oh crap, my mind just went totally blank. But anyway, my thought was the national anthem. Oh, it was desecrating sports or destroying sports or whatever.
Yeah.
Sorry, those are two different things. The national anthem, saluting the flag, the Pledge of Allegiance are one thing. They are patriotism. They say we love our country, and sports are sports.
I'll tell you what, I'll interject this one more time, but the Professional Rodeo Cowboys Association, of which I am a gold card member, I announced thousands and thousands of performances. I never once saw one of our pro athletes ever do anything that was contentious or against our flag and our country. And there is much or more athletes than these dim-witted NFL players.
Exactly. There's, there's some sports that say you try that garbage, and I think it's NASCAR says you try that and you don't race.
Yeah. Or look at Major League.
The thing that is supposed to pull us together in unity is our flag, our national anthem, our pledge. That's supposed to bring us together, not tear us apart. And I really think that with Colin Kaepernick, most people have no reason. I don't even remember why he knelt in the first place anymore.
Yeah. And by the way, he was so despicable with an anti-police attitude in this country, wearing the socks that couple of days of practice that signified that the police were pigs, etc. And now he's being glorified by the left and thrown up on a pedestal like, here is our revered spokesperson. The kid is a bum.
They need to find out anybody who is anti-police. And as soon as the burglar starts breaking in their house, and they call 911 and say, well, sorry, we can't come to your house because you don't want us.
That's right.
Here's the story.
I agree with you. And again, I love your phone calls, but I think you are one of the very few people that stand me up real straight and make me sweat. Thank you.
Sorry. Have a good day.
God bless you. Thank you. Oh, I love those callers. I tell you what, I know where she stands, and I appreciate it. By golly, I do too. And right now, I want to tell you a little bit about our major sponsor, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers, all 7 locations. If you're getting ready for a road trip, you're going to go see some of your high school friends, or maybe Aunt Martha and Uncle Fred over in Albuquerque or whatever. Make sure that when you get ready for that road trip, you've got the best of tires. And your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers have the best of tires for you. All the different tread designs, all the sizes, car, pickup, SUV, whatever. Many of which are on sale right now. So please get in there and see them. Your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers for the best in brake service and front end alignments and shocks and struts and batteries. Yeah, they want you to go on a road trip, have fun, and come home safely. Your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. Lane and Rupert, Dave on Blue Lakes and Twin, Mike and Buell, Mike and Jerome, the Twist family in Paul, Daniel on Poline in Twin Falls, and Randy on Overland and Burley. Your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. Wheels, I think the crackling has finally gone away. Somebody must have put some duct tape on it. How does it sound real quick? Fast answer before I go to the news.
You sound great, sir. That's all I have to say.
All right. Have another sip of coffee. I'll talk to you in about 7 minutes. Wheels, take it away. We'll see you in 7. Hot, 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 hot. It's hot outside. My goodness. And very smoky. If you don't have to be outside, don't be. Please be careful. Zeb at the Ranch, I'm Zeb Bell with our major sponsor, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. All 7 locations serving you, and they've got the best of tires. If you're getting ready for a road trip, stop in and see them today. Along with some of our great advertisers like Burley Physical Therapy and Rehabilitation at 1263 Bennett Avenue, Suite 2 in Burley, helping you get back to being you. Right now, Wheels, this good word for Western Waste.
From the canyons of the Snake River and all across southern Idaho, we're always sure to show those Western Waste services. We care about our community, our resources, and this great land. Western
my goodness sakes, you know about the garbage collection weekly on the route service. You know about the porta potties. You know about the dumpsters. They've got it all. Well, also, they provide the Go Minis, the portable storage units. They can bring one over to your place. You can fill it up, lock it up on your property, or have them stored on their property. All of this and so much more. Western Waste Services, always at your disposal. Call today at 734-6969. Wonderful, wonderful people. By the way, on Thursdays, we have a segment where we really learn more about your friends and your neighbors serving you at Cassia Regional Hospital. Quality care close to home at 9:17 on Thursdays, right here on Zeb at the Ranch. You'll learn about all the great services that are provided to you. Excellent health care, answers, and services at your Cassia Regional Hospital. 9:17 on Thursdays. And we also want to acknowledge the fact that, yes, the Minidoka County Fair is going on right now. Big, big things at the 70th Annual Minidoka County Fair. And today, of course, they've got the Antique Engine Show that starts at noon, goes till 7 p.m. Then the Big Lions Barbecue at 5:30 p.m. All you can eat. Woo! Going to be good. And then right with that, the Fair Board Social, cobbler and ice cream. I wish I could make it over for that. Sounds delicious. And then also tonight, the Junior Rodeo starting at 7 p.m. All of this at the 70th Annual Minidoka County Fair. And real quick, too, it's hot outside, and our dear friends at Ark Animal Hospital want to remind you, do not take your dogs and kitty cats with you when you go to town in your vehicle. It's too dadgum hot. Leave them at home with plenty of water and air. Please don't take them with you. Ark Animal Hospital wants everything to stay healthy. They're a large and a small animal clinic. Absolutely. They take care of all the animals out there, making sure they stay healthy for you. They're located at 750 21st Street near Connection Credit Union in Hayburn. Number to call, 678-1177. They have the warm hearts for the cold noses. Right now, let's go to the phone line, and my dear friend back in Indianapolis, Indiana, is ready and raring to go. Good morning, Dave Bego. How are you?
I'm pretty good this morning. You're pretty chirpy this morning.
Like a fat little robin. I got to ask you a question. What in the world is going on in the Republican Party? You know, we denigrate the Democrats and the liberals and those on the left, but quite frankly, I'm going to start throwing snowballs, if I had a snowball, at the Republicans, whether it's Mitch McConnell or Paul Ryan, whomever. They aren't doing a doggone thing. They've got the charge of the public to do their bidding, and they're not.
Well, it's real simple. We got elections coming up in November, and they don't want to say anything where they could lose votes, and they're still trying to track votes from the Democratic side, and so they're going to play neutral with no backbone, and that's what we're going to see until this election's over.
You know, and really, this is despicable. I mean, if they haven't got the backbone, the spine, or the you-know-what to stand up and be tall and work for their constituents, I don't want them in office.
Well, you know, I've met a lot of them, when I was fighting the SEIU, and then I had the Employee Free Choice Act defeated in Washington, which was a bill the SEIU had. Senator Evan Bayh here in Indiana proposed in Washington, which was basically forced unionism, took away the election process and went to card check. You know, I was back and forth for 6 months in Washington meeting with these people, and it's amazing to me how many of them just aren't very personable, number one, and number two, they just don't have the spine to stand up to these type of people, and that they're just not over friendly, and it's all about them staying in office. And again, I've said this many times, this is why we need term limits.
Dave, when you met with these people, I don't mean to pursue this and whip the horse to get up, but when you met with these people and you said they weren't very personable and they didn't seem very helpful, how in the world did they ever get elected in the first place?
Yeah, because, election is politics, and they go around and they say things, and say this is what they're going to do and this is what they're for and everything. But again, when they get in office, do they always go in there and have the backbone to support those things and get things done? And a big percentage of the cases, it's not true. And I mean, don't get me wrong. As I say, is Paul Ryan. I mean, he's a decent guy. So is who else?
Mitch McConnell.
But anyway, I've met him, and I mean, they're okay people to meet and talk to a little bit. But when it really comes to being very personable and willing to sit down and talk to you and go through things and work together to get things accomplished, it's more or less, it's a brief conversation and they move on.
Americans want the wall. Americans want border security. Americans want legal immigration. Americans want security. Americans want our laws and our Constitution observed. Why are both parties fighting to go just the opposite way?
Because it's all about votes, Zeb, because, the way our system's set up now, and it shouldn't be, a lot of these people that come across are allowed to vote, and, especially the Democratic Party and the unions support them, and the SEIU is big on this, is getting these people to the polls and letting them vote. And, there's no background checks or ID checks or anything like that. And, they say that, these people, because they're here, they deserve to vote. And the truth is, it's all about power, and they want to get these people to vote so they can win the elections, and, the Democratic Party and the unions then can get bills passed that will help them force unionized people and grow their membership.
You just mentioned something that is also a hot topic right now. They've been doing a lot of study around the country, and quite frankly, there has been the allowance of illegal aliens voting in major elections, and the numbers they're finding are a lot bigger than anticipated, and these people that are allowing this to happen, they should be thrown in jail.
Well, that's exactly right, and if you look at it, most of it's happening in Democratic states.
Yep.
And, again, the unions, it's, back in I think it was the 2014 midterms, the SEIU was huge in Las Vegas, bringing people in on the bus, illegals, and getting them to the polls and voting. Without being identified, and the SEIU was actually running a lot of the polls there for the people that provided the polling machines. So it's terrible what's going on in this country, and we got to get back to the point where we're a nation of laws, and we got to obey those laws and make everybody stand up and obey those laws.
I got to tell you that I really, really appreciated the fact that you sent me quite a bit of the different posters that have been made up about Donald Trump. And I'm trying to find the one on my cell phone right now, and I'm not getting through with this silly phone of mine not working. But those were excellent. Which one was your favorite, by the way, as I'm trying to get mine cleared on my phone?
Well, I thought there was a lot of them that I really liked. I thought they were good, and you won't believe this, but my old high school basketball coach sent me that, and he's a good guy, and I picked that up, and I thought I've got to send this around, show it to everybody, and I've got a lot of good responses for it because a lot of what's said in these things is that Trump is standing up for this country and for God and religion and for who we are and what we are. Yeah, is there times where he goes over the top and how he, talks about it and he's not quite as professional as he should be, but he does stand up for who we are and what we stand for, and he's trying to bring this country back and get people to obey our laws, and that's what we need.
Well, one of my favorites, I just found it, is this one. The days of walking on pins and needles are over. The days of worrying about feelings have ended. It's time to step on some toes and take our country back. Amen, brother. Amen.
And that's what we need. And it goes back to this the political thing and with this election, a lot of the politicians out there are afraid to step on toes or things like that because they don't want to lose votes during the election. And I'm going to say it over and over and over again, we need term limits.
I could not agree more. You know, on a lighter note, because these people are so dim-witted, there is a faction, I know you've heard this story, in California where at first they wanted to divide the state of California into 3 different states. Now some of these so-called elites that have the mentality of a box of rocks, they've decided that maybe we should split the state of California in half, from south to north, north to south, and they said the eastern half of the state should go back to the Native Americans. You know, a lot of these people have the IQ of hummingbird doo-doo. How in the world would they ever anticipate all the communities, all the businesses, all the ranchers, all the farms, everything all of a sudden are gone?
Yeah, that's the thing. You know, these people don't get it. They don't understand. And again, too many on the left, and especially the unions, they don't understand how to operate in a free market society. And it's really sad. If they would just go out and work hard and persevere and do the right things, I think they find that, you know, they're needed in places and they'd be successful. Now, they may not have the number of members that they have today, but that's not the point. The point is to do things right and do things the right way and take care of your membership. You know, too many of the unions today, their pension plans and health care plans are in collapse. Because the unions are using the money for politics instead of for the union members.
How do they do that? Explain that to me a little bit without litigation and a armful of lawsuits. How do they get by with that?
I don't know. That's a good question. And it's because a lot of the members most likely are just afraid to go after them because behind the scenes they're being intimidated. You better shut up. You better not say anything. You better pay your dues.
So there are people in unions that you can verify that basically are seeing their pensions and their promises of these unions literally go down the toilet because of misuse of funds.
Well, yeah, that's what they're saying. I mean, if you looked in my newsletter that came out this week, I believe there was an article in it that talked about, I forget which union it was, but the membership was just really concerned because pensions were really under subsidized.
Mm-hmm. Wow. You know, and also in the state of California, I had a gentleman on the phone yesterday with me that's been on my program quite a few times. He is a renowned author and great op-ed piece writer, and that's Kerry Lutz. And Kerry was saying, and he really elaborated how bad and how filthy the city of San Francisco has become, and it's just absolutely deplorable, but yet the liberal city council and mayor, they sit back and ignore the problem.
Yeah, it's sad, and again, you know, in California especially, it's union controlled in that, and you know, it's until the people wake up and get some backbone and get these people out of office, we're going to continue to see this stuff. But, you know, I've been through it, I've seen it, and, you know, the intimidation factors behind the scenes, it's sad. But people in California need to stand up and have some backbone.
Absolutely.
And, you know, back to this pension thing I told you about, big labor leaders and Democrats are still trying to use taxpayer-funded means of salvaging soon insolvent union multi-employer pension plans, and they're finding it even hard to sell to their in-house crowd.
Wow.
This tells you what's going on in this country with the unions and then the left.
Absolutely. We have a caller with a question for you, Dave. Go ahead, caller. Quickly, you're on the air.
Just one quick question. I seen a little blurb last night on TV about the Florida, one of the elected officials there, going after and signing off on collecting second right, stepping on second rights and collecting guns from citizens.
Caller, we lost you. Are you still there?
I'm here.
No, Dave, I mean the caller that was calling in. Is the other caller there? Well, we're having trouble with his cell phone staying on the air. I can kind of talk, Dave, and give a little synopsis as to his question. More than 450 people in Florida were ordered by the government to give up their guns under a new law, which is nothing more than a confiscation law. What are your thoughts about maybe this being an icebreaker that might be tried in other areas?
Well, I guess it's possible, but I don't see it as something that's lasting because people are going to stand up for their rights, and I don't think that's going to happen. And we need to keep our Second Amendment rights because we need to be able to defend ourselves against people that aren't so good, and the potential of a government that oversteps its boundaries.
One last thing, and to the caller that tried to call in a moment ago, I'm sorry the cell phone cut out on us. I apologize. We'd love to have you call back. But I do want to ask you about this Connecticut City Council woman that did it again. She kneeled again during the Pledge of Allegiance, but this time there were many, many veterans in the audience at that City Council meeting, and I think they're going to demand that she either resign or they have a recall.
Well, man, I think that's the way it should be. People need to respect our flag and, again, respect our laws and who we are. And, too many on the left, they think, the time moves along and things change and we got to change. And, there are some things that have to change, but we have to keep our basic fundamental rights and freedoms in place.
Absolutely. Caller, go ahead quickly. I've got 3 minutes left. Go ahead.
I'm just wondering, this gal in Connecticut, when we break down what she's actually kneeling through, where does her allegiance lie, if not with the United States? She's performing a blatant statement that her allegiance doesn't apparently lie with the United States, and she's trying to represent the people of the United States in a small way in Connecticut. But I think small is the operative word, especially when you're talking about what may be or may not be between our ears. But I remember in 1971 when I met you, and 47 years ago, they're trying to convince L. James Kotenick that what would happen in this country if his ideas that he sparked went through, and I think he would be surprised and disappointed in the country, even with his that he was pushing on the radio in the early 70s.
Well, you've got a great memory from way back in those early days. Thank you for your call, my friend. I appreciate it. And he brings up a good point, Dave, in the time remaining about this woman. Where does her allegiance lie? Really, who does she pledge or have allegiance to? And then she was caught on an open mic afterwards saying that her community was racist and fascist.
Well, the bottom line is she's socialist, and she wants to, along with Bernie Sanders and those type of people and the far left and a lot of the union bosses, want to turn this country into a socialistic country, and that's what it's all about, because under a socialistic regime they have control, and that's what it's all about, control. And people have to understand that, because they think they're smarter than everybody else. But if you want to look at what socialism does for you, look at Venezuela and places like that.
Absolutely. I had some more things I wanted to get into this morning, but I just flat ran out of time. I'm sure you're probably going to hit the links later on today and enjoy a game of golf. And I hope your weather and your smoke conditions are not like they are here. We are just saturated with smoke and fires and hot temperatures. What's it like back in Indiana?
No, it's nice back here. We've had rain the last couple of days. Highs have been around 71, 72, and it's clearing up today. We're going to have a high of 77, so it's beautiful.
Well, send a bottle of wine this way for a change instead of me having to keep sending it all to your office, my friend, and we'll get together and share a little bit of that. Thank you so much.
All right. Well, you hope things clean up and clear up out there for you and all your listeners and everybody out there.
God bless you, Dave Bego. We appreciate it. Indianapolis, Indiana, and a great author and businessman, Dave Bego. I want to remind you, too, that our dear friends over at Hanson Mortuary with Joel Heward, his family, and his staff, serving you and your family. When there's a passing of a loved one, we all know, we've all been through it, and it's just absolutely a tumultuous time, and there's so much that has to be done in such a small frame of time. Well, please remember them, Hanson Mortuary. Call them, and they can help. They will help. 436-5636. Always with the highest ethical standards, with unquestioned integrity. Hanson Mortuary, 710 6th Street in Rupert, 436-5636. And Joel Heward also serving you and your family at Morrison Payne Funeral Home on East Main in Burley. Let's see, what else have I got to get done here real quick. Oh, I want to remind you about some of the great Cassia County merchants that are inviting you to be a part of the Cassia County Fair and Pro Rodeo coming up in a couple of weeks. First of all, Magic Valley Irrigation, 44 East, 500 South of Burley with Jeff and the crew. They've been offering irrigation system service and repair since way back in 1978. They're waiting to serve you at Magic Valley Irrigation. Pickett Equipment Company, 976 East Main in Burley. Oh, the most innovative edible bean harvesting equipment in the world. You give them a call at Pickett Equipment Company today. They can and they will help you. And also Dot Foods, 1541 West 27th Street in Burley, coming together every day to make a difference for you and everyone here in the valley. They work with the community to make it better for everybody. Dot Foods, thank you very much. And last but not least, Perkins Bakery and Restaurant at 800 North Overland in Burley. Hey, they've got all kinds of parking available for anybody to come in with any sized outfit. Great place to unwind after being at the Cassia County Fair and Rodeo. Perkins Bakery and Restaurant on Overland in Burley. Thank you very much. In just a moment, we're going to go to the phone line, and hopefully, if our phone lines work, I hope they continue to work. They've been kind of frizzly and frazzly this morning. We're going to have Julio Rivera on our program in just a few moments. Don't forget, too, Lee's Furniture, Floors, and More at 459 Overland in Burley. It's doggone hot outside right now. But, you know, before we know it, we'll be complaining and grabbing for the parkas and the hats and the hoodies and everything. Well, Lee's Furniture has all their window coverings at 40% off right now. Shades, vertical blinds, whatever you need. And they're also right now at Lee's Furniture, Floors, and More having a great sale on mattresses. So get in today and talk to the real professionals. Lee's Furniture, Floors, and More at 459 Overland in Burley. And they also deliver at Lee's Furniture, Floors, and More. Right now, let's go to the phone line. And with us this morning, and he's always been a great guest on this show, Julio Rivera, business consultant, political activist, and writer. Good morning, sir. How are you? Are you there, Julio?
Yes, I am.
Well, for a minute, I thought maybe I was going to be talking to an empty phone line. I'm glad you're on the other side. How are you doing anyway? I appreciate your being on the program.
I am fantastic. It's a pleasure to be back on with you. It's been too long.
You know, let me ask you a little bit about what's going on with the Democratic left and the acceptance and the furtherance of socialism. It's almost now to where they're not signing on entirely, so they say, but yet the acceptance of people like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and Sarah Smith and Bernie Sanders. What are your feelings and concerns about where the Democrats are going?
Well, I think in the fringy areas, and we're talking about the coast, I mean, those places are far, far left. So I think that in order to run a campaign and kind of excite their base, they have to go real far, hard left. And look, Joe Crowley was a pretty popular and a pretty tenured Democrat. For him to lose, I believe he was fourth in line to be Speaker of the House.
Right.
And he got primaried pretty decisively by Cortez. So I think that their strategy looks like that, you know, in the fringier areas, they're going to go as far to the left as they possibly can. But that's not going to work in flyover country. You know, I think that the reason the party is dead right now is that they don't really have any semblance of exciting moderate candidates that they can go ahead and run. So I think that, you know, in the midterm, more or less, it's going to be, you know, more of what we've seen over the last couple of midterms. You know, we saw that 2014 was very strong for the GOP, and so it was obviously 2010.
Julio, what does it tell you, though, and you study this every day, you write about it, etc., but what does it tell you about the younger generation in America as being this misinformed and this easily led by the nose that we'll provide free medical care, we'll provide free educations, why everything is going to be free? What does it tell you about the upcoming generation?
Well, it's basically they're in perpetual childhood. I think that's really what it boils down to. I mean, I think that this generation grew up more comfortably, you know, with more advances scientifically than, you know, any other generation in history, and on the heels of a pretty successful 1980s where, you know, I'm sure a lot of their parents made a lot of money, you know, in the Reagan economy. And, you know, so, I mean, they feel entitled. They feel entitled to all these things. And, you know, I also blame the university system, the public school system. You know, these people really, you know, these kids growing up, unfortunately, be somewhat of a lost generation because they don't understand everything that goes into creating a free society. Unfortunately, they just, because they weren't properly taught it, to be honest with you. And, you know, I think that losing civics in schools and replacing that with social studies has created a generation of social justice warriors that feel entitled to the world.
Do you feel, Julio, that the people like Cortez and Sarah Smith, etc., are just going to be shooting stars and hopefully shoot themselves in the foot? Or are they going to bring about more of their ilk, not only before the midterms, but also leading up to 2020?
Well, yes, there was a congresswoman from Florida in the Democrat Party. I can't think of her name right now. It's like Alcee something or whatever. She criticized Cortez, saying basically meteors fizzle out. And, you know, if you don't really have the, I guess, ideological knowledge or the historical knowledge, and you're not really ideologically grounded, you can't really defend the things that you're talking about. So that's the reason why she's been caught, you know, in a bad position a couple times on left-leaning shows when she's asked to explain her position on Israel and the Palestine, which she claimed was the Israeli occupation of Palestine. You know, this is something, and this, again, going back to the university system, she studied international affairs and economics. So she has a college education from Boston University and these things, and these are two things that she seems to know nothing about. She doesn't know the way basic unemployment numbers work, and she doesn't seem to know anything about geopolitics, unfortunately. So it is a really, truly a sad state of affairs. But make no mistake, she will win her seat, and she will be in Congress, you know, come January.
But when you look at the overall picture of the gray-haired, frizzly-haired guy that started this mess, I think, Bernie Sanders, with the socialistic attitude, where do they think all this is going to come from? Do they wave a magic wand and all of a sudden the economy fairy is going to give everybody more money and free Medicare and a free education? The word free is such a stupid word because somebody somewhere has to dip into their billfold and pay for it.
Exactly. Yeah, I've never understood that, and you know, when I get into arguments all the time on panels, as soon as I hear that word "free," I understand the ignorance that I'm actually dealing with. But you know, it's a funny thing, you know, because if you consider what Debbie Wasserman Schultz did, very easily it could have been, and it probably should have been, Bernie that ran in the general against Trump, and it might have been a different turnout, or the situation might have been different had Bernie run. So he still is very dangerous. As far as what his appeal is, I quite frankly don't understand it because obviously it doesn't appeal to people like you and me. But again, this younger generation, they keep hearing the word free. You know, we're gonna get rid of your student loan debt. We're gonna do all these things. These kids that made these critical mistakes at the most important points of their life. That's the thing that's actually the sad irony, that these kids are being misled by, you know, their educators and you know, the federal student loan system, the way that works. I think that we need a rehaul to that, like an overhaul of that. I think that, you know, no loans should be backed unless you go through the Bureau of Labor Statistics and find out what the in-demand industries and fields are in the future, unless you're investing in an actual degree that's going to have value later on, I don't think that they should even allow these kids to take out loans for these ridiculous liberal arts studies that they choose.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You touched on another topic that I wanted to ask you about. What does it tell you, Julio Rivera, about our education system when we see this kind of garbage and trash come to the forefront? What does it tell you about public education in the state of in the nation of America?
Well, it tells me that, the people that are executing public education in America today are government employees. So they believe in bigger and bigger and bigger government. So they're going to teach the kids that, the new normal should be government control of all industries, just like it is of the education system that pays these teachers. That's why I think we have to expand, voucher programs, tax write-offs for private education, and make it more competitive. So because I would much rather, listen, unfortunately, my child is actually in the public education system. I moved to the most conservative portion of New Jersey, where we had Scott Garrett as a 6-term incumbent here before he got beat by the Clinton East Josh Gottheimer. And now I'm looking to fix my house and sell it and move down south because I'm running away from, northeastern liberalism here. Because I was living in the last bastion, the last little section where we still had like an 80-plus score Heritage Foundation congressman here, and now we've lost that. So, it is really bad. It's a sad state of affairs. I feel bad for conservatives who are in that weird situation where, because of what we pay in property taxes and other things and the cost of living in New Jersey, can't really necessarily afford to send our kids to a, posh private school.
Absolutely. Julio, the situation back in the eastern states, in Connecticut specifically, of a small-town city council woman that took it upon herself a couple of weeks ago to kneel in defiance of standing for our Pledge of Allegiance. Once was bad enough, and then she did it again just recently in front of a bunch of veterans and people that have served our great country. What does it tell you about the state of affairs of respect for our country and our Constitution when we have people on city councils and governments everywhere across this country showing disdain and respect for our Constitution and our flag?
The founders would be rolling in their graves, and actually, not even necessarily the founders. I think, people, different groups of people throughout history. The slaves that were freed and, became, Republican members of Congress initially. It took about 100 years before any of them became, leftist Democrats. They're rolling in their graves. I think it spits in the face of the taxpayers who fund these people's salaries. They're public employees. I think if you're a public employee and you pull a stunt like that, I think you should be immediately impeached.
Absolutely. I'm kind of throwing another shotgun approach to you this morning on another issue, but I was going to ask you a little bit about the problems with universal income. This trend has been starting and talked about supplying income to people for not doing anything except sitting on the couch, eating bonbons and watching the Late Show, and we, the taxpayers, provide them more of an income for equality. Can't wait to hear your thoughts on this.
Well, again, this is the left, I think, pandering to try to gain another voting block. You see them do it all the time with the LGBT community. They do it all the time with affirmative action for minorities and, all their supposed social justice causes. They always try to bring new people into the fold. So now I guess they're going to probably pick, actually a pretty big block of voting age people, which are people that are sitting around on their butts, not trying to do anything, to kind of enrich themselves. And they'll come up with the same, Democratic talking points that the wealthy have to pay their fair share, and their fair share is, your sustenance. And, but I think it's all rooted in immorality. The one thing that I've always found is, and it's a very basic argument, I think that the concept of wealth redistribution at its core is immoral. What does anybody, what right does anybody have to what I earn or what you earn?
That's right.
Or even a major corporation. Everybody has the right to keep the fruits of their labor and not have to turn it over to somebody who wants to sit around and play Call of Duty all day smoking weed.
That's right. Julio, one last thought about the left and the Democrats and their purported encouragement and idea that there will be a blue wave coming up in November, and that blue wave will be resurgent again in 2020. I don't see the blue wave. I don't even see a small stream. Actually, I don't even see a trickle. What do you see?
I see not even a drizzle. That's the kind of dovetail off what you were saying there. Yeah, no, I can't see it. I mean, you have to, and I actually had an opportunity to go on RT America's Crosstalk a couple of weeks ago. We were talking about the walk-away movement, and one of the points I made was, until the left, the Democrats, come up with policies that are attractive to working-class white Americans, they're never going to win another midterm. They're never going to win another, presidential election, because ultimately the largest voting bloc in this country are working-class white Americans, and do everything they can to alienate white men. That's not a smart tactic. The only places that you're going to win, like I said, they are going to win the fringes. They are going to dominate New York, California, the far-left areas, but there's not enough electoral votes just amongst those 5-6 liberal strongholds to win a presidential election. So they're going to have to come to the center. They're going to have a resurgence of, blue dog Democrats in order for them to have a really substantially, pose a threat to the GOP.
Well, tell me quickly, in the time remaining, what is the Democratic platform? Please tell me what Tom Perez and these other people have lined up. I'm anxious to hear any platform notes that you might have other than a hate Trump. That's all I know.
Exactly. It's a lot of boo-hooing. It's a lot of, we want to impeach them. We don't really have impeachable grounds or any indictable offenses. We just want to get rid of them because we don't like them. There's that. There's the whole, I really don't know what, but they're going to raise our taxes. They're going to raise our taxes. They're going to re-regulate industry and make it harder for, American corporations to hire. I mean, what is their platform? That's actually, the $64,000 question there, Zeb.
Hey, well, sooner or later, something has got to be said, something has got to be shown, something has got to be printed. We're only about 3.5 months away from those fall elections, and I don't see how they've got anything more than a cotton ball to stand on.
Yep, it doesn't. I think it's going to, the blue wave is, again, another manufactured, talking point from the left, as far as just like they said that, Hillary Clinton was going to win, and all the fake polls where they were only calling Democrats were showing that, Hillary Clinton was beating Trump. And then we obviously remember what happened on that beautiful night in November of 2016. I expect that we're going to get more of the same this November.
Absolutely. Gentlemen, that's the editorial director for the reactionarytimes.com, Julio Rivera, a well-received guest on this program and will continue to be. Thanks, Julio. God bless.
God bless, Zeb. Have a great day.
Thank you, sir. I enjoy him. He's very straightforward and tells it like it is. Julio Rivera, thank you very much. Oh, we have got to go to a weather. We're going to do that weather in just a moment, but first and foremost, I want to remind you about Let's Ride. Oh, my goodness sakes. Yes, Let's Ride, located at 270 Highway 24 between Rupert and the World. They're open Monday through Fridays, 9 to 6, Saturdays, 9 to 4. 0% financing on ATVs. Wow, you better get over there. And they've got all the watercrafts, and they got the Honda Pioneer side-by-sides. Get outside and enjoy. Throw the internet and the computer and the cell phones away and just get outside and go. Absolutely. And they've got all the accessories, and they've got a super service department at Let's Ride. 270 Highway 24 between Rupert and the World, where the fun is sold. Absolutely. Right now, the weather, and the weather is brought to you, boy, I think it's going to start changing a little bit, hopefully by the weekend. The weather brought to you by Phillips Oaks Goodwin Crane and Company, providing accounting services to the Mini-Cassia area for well over 50 years. The best of tax return preparation, tax planning, bookkeeping services, retirement planning. And I've said this every day, and it's really important. Leiden Crane sent me some information. Many of the tax rates have been changed, and many of the deductions have changed. So you should know, for you, your family, and your business, you get a hold of the professionals. Phillips Oaks Goodwin Crane and Company, with offices in Burley and Rupert. And right now, here's Gina with the weather.
Here's your weather forecast for this Wednesday, and again, smoky conditions as we have a big fire burning up in the Wood River Valley, and then, of course, we've got the Grouse Creek fire burning over the border in Utah and Nevada. So we are expecting some more isolated showers and thunderstorms by this afternoon, about a 20% chance of precipitation. Smoke will continue to linger. However, it is supposed to be mostly sunny and hot, expecting a high of 97. Slightly breezy as well. Tonight, more isolated rain showers and thunderstorms are a possibility before midnight. Partly cloudy skies with a low of 64. Tomorrow, again, 20% chance of rain showers and thunderstorms in the afternoon. It is going to be smoky, mostly sunny skies, expecting a high of 92. Winds are going to be out of the east, right around 10 miles an hour. Gusts is possible with 22 miles an hour. For Friday, sunny skies cooling down to 87. Saturday, sunny skies, mid-80s. That's your weather forecast for Zebra Durant.
She is fantastic at putting all the weather data together. Thank you, Gina. We appreciate it. And the weather brought to you by Phillips Oaks Crane and Company. Did I forget some? Yes, I did. I forgot to say Phillips Oaks Goodwin Crane and Company. There we go. Got to get them all in there. And absolutely the best in accounting services to the Mini-Cash area and beyond for over 50 years. Changes in the tax structure you should know about. Get a hold of them today. Phillips Oaks Goodwin Crane and Company, with offices in Burley and Rupert. I'd like to have a call. I really would. Give me a jingle on the landline, and we'll put you on the air and talk about whatever subject you want to talk about. And appreciate your calls. 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. One of the subjects that I did want to talk about a little bit this morning, and it was very somber, and it just tore at my heartstrings, was the return of supposedly 50 of our U.S. soldiers' remains coming back to us from North Korea. I certainly hope there can be some closure for the families, and I know a lot of families from back in the Midwest that lost their family members in North Korea. And I certainly hope that now, with maybe a little healing of the wounds, hopefully between North Korea and the United States, that all of our deceased soldiers can come home and rest in peace. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Good morning. Is that me that's on the air?
Yes, sir. Go ahead, please.
Okay. Well, I was just going to ask you a favor. We've been talking about the vote this fall on the expansion of the Medicaid.
Yes.
And I'd really, and believe me, I'm about as far right as you can get. I'm pretty conservative. I'd really appreciate you inviting on your program to visit with you about that issue with our county commissioner here in Burley, or Representative Fred Wood, and talk about that. I think that would maybe do the workers a lot of good and give you some good information at the same time.
Well, I appreciate that. And just this week, we had Fred Birnbaum with the Idaho Freedom Foundation talking exactly about that. And to be honest with you, sir, every week from now on, I'm going to highlight one segment about the Medicaid issue in the state of Idaho. As you know my feelings on it, I think that it needs to be much more definitive as to who and how and why people are going to possibly get Medicaid coverage. And I'm definitely going to have Representative Fred Wood and others on the program. But I thank you for your thoughts.
Well, thanks very much, Jeff. I appreciate you, too.
All right, sir. God bless. Thank you. Thank you. It's an issue that has been very disruptive. It's an issue that has been very contentious. And it's an issue that is going to come up on the November ballot. And yes, we had Fred Birnbaum on the air. We're going to be having Representative Fred Wood. We're going to have Senator Kelly Anthon. The only excuse I have for not having them all put on at once is I book usually about 2 to 3 weeks in advance. That's how busy our booking is. As a matter of fact, I am booked right now. I'm looking at the calendar all the way through August 22nd. And I have some open spots that I'm leaving for guests like our local representatives and senators, and that's what we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about the Medicaid crisis, and it is here in the state of Idaho. Want to remind you, too, about our friends at Cameron and Siemens Insurance, Highway 24 in Rupert. And the number to remember and the number to call, 436-4424. That number again, 436-4424. Life insurance, health insurance, retirement planning, employee benefits, all of this and so much more. Please talk to the professionals. Cameron and Siemens Insurance, Highway 24 in Rupert, 436-4424. Okay, got time for another call, and I thank that gentleman for his calling on that issue because, no, I'm not going to let it lay. We're going to talk about it extensively from now until the midterms. All right, give me a call, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Just another little personal note that I get a little sick and tired of hearing. I get a little bit sick and tired. No, I get very much sick and tired of hearing all about Russia. Russia's going to do this. Russia's going to do that. Wait a minute. If you will take the time and the effort to do your own study as to who is going to be the biggest threat to the United States in the future, oh, shock of shocks, you will find out that it's China. And I was going back through some of the archives of my program, and it was almost a year ago on the show. It was at a August program. We talked about the threats of China being far more severe than Russia. Now, perhaps if you argue with me, and you want to, feel free to do so, China's threat to us has been hacking much more information than Russia. 22 million Americans had their personnel files hacked. And there are many, many more human spies from China here trying to steal any and all information they can, whether it's in the business world or the military world. And I get so upset at the dim-dims like Schumer, Swalwell in California, and others. Oh, it's Russia, that's our major threat. No, it is not. No, it is not. It's China. And if you don't believe it, rather than sit there like a little teapot and spout off, why don't you just do the math, do the study, do the research, and I think you will concur. China, right now, growing like a cancer, could and wants to take over the entire world. Let me see, what else have I got to tell? Oh, yes, the Jerome County Fair and Rodeo. Got to tell you a little bit about that. They're going to have their big PRCA rodeo, Professional Rodeo Cowboys Association rodeo, August 7, 8, and 9. Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday night. And believe me, they've got a lot of fun planned for their big Jerome County Fair and Pro Rodeo this year. And then on Friday, August 10th, they're going to have at 7 p.m. a huge, really good country artist, Jessie G. She is going to be in concert, and it's going to be phenomenal. She can sing. That's also going to be military night. Bring your military ID and get in for free at the Jerome County Fair and Rodeo, August 7th through the 11th. Don't you miss it. Okay? Gotcha. Next hour, we've got Dr. Michael Busler coming on the program talking about our economy. And then at 10:32 this morning, Tom Harris. He's the executive director of the International Climate Science Coalition, and he's going to talk about the idiocy of Al Gore and global warming and climate change and everything else. Don't miss it. We've got a full hour left. Right now, we're going to turn it back over to Wheels at our main studios and lead us up into CBS News. Okie doke, here we go. Hour number 3 on August 1 for a Wednesday. Good morning, Zeb at the Ranch. I'm Zeb Bell with our major sponsor, your Magic Valley, Les Schwab Tire Centers, all 7 locations serving you. And, of course, some of our great advertisers like Burley Physical Therapy and Rehabilitation at 1263 Bennett Avenue, Suite 2 in Burley, helping you get back to being you. Right now, I want to remind you again, in a couple of weeks, the great big Cassia County Fair and Rodeo, and some of the merchants that want you to be sure and attend include AMI, 719 Overland and Burley. Look for the big 28-foot wrench over the door and go nuts over their bolts. They urge you to attend the Cassia County Fair. And Butte Irrigation, 116 South, 600 West, Highway 27 in Paul, and the new location, Kimberly Road, north of Kimberly by Red Cap Corner. I'll tell you what, their main goal is taking care of all your irrigation needs. They will get you wet. And Magic Valley Mountain Transmission. My goodness sakes, the best in the Magic Valley. Mountain Transmissions, 1146 East Main in Burley, with Rick and the crew at 678-9110. Believe me, the latest and greatest technology available at Mountain Transmissions. Urging you to attend the Cassia County Fair and Rodeo. Don't forget their concert's going to be coming up on Saturday, August 11th. You do not want to miss this concert. Get your tickets now. Contact the fair office. And don't forget, the concert gates are going to open at 6:30 on the 11th, and they're going to have a sleep at the wheel, and then Casey Donahue. Going to be fantastic entertainment to kick off your Cassia County Fair and Rodeo for 2018. Right now, let's go to the phone line, and I'm really anxious to talk to this gentleman. He's a public policy analyst and economics expert, which I was not in high school, but I've learned since, and a professor of finance at Stockton University in New Jersey. Good morning, Dr. Michael Busler. How are you?
I'm fine, Zeb. How are you? It's a pleasure to be here.
It's always good to have you on the program, Dr. Busler. And Wheels, we do have some feedback on that line, if you'd help me out. Where are we economically in this country that maybe we weren't a year ago?
Well, I'll tell you, we happen to be in a very good position. The problem that the economy really has had is that we haven't had any strong economic growth for some time. As a matter of fact, the economy hasn't grown at a 3% annual rate since 2005. We haven't grown at a 4% annual rate since 2000. That's mostly because the prior administration did not put economic growth as a top priority. The top priority for the prior administration was primarily to cure perceived social injustices. Like it's an injustice everybody doesn't have health care. It's an injustice that there's not food stamps available to everybody. It's an injustice that there's not enough welfare available. It's an injustice that big companies take advantage of consumers. So they were not concentrating on economic growth, rather on solving those social issues. President Trump said because we haven't had strong economic growth, which has caused a whole lot of problems, he's going to concentrate on economic growth as a top priority. So the first thing he was able to do was to reverse some executive orders that placed burdensome and counterproductive regulations on business. Since he did that, from the second quarter of last year on, the economy has grown at about a 3% rate. So it's better than we've done in 13 years. Then he said the other thing that's holding the economy back is people are not able to keep as much of their income as they should because taxes are high, number one. And number two, because we have a capital-intensive economy, we've got to create more capital for expansion. So we look back at what John Kennedy and Lyndon Johnson did in 63, 64, and you look back more closely at what Ronald Reagan did in 81, and he crafted his tax cut similar to what they did. When Reagan passed his tax cut in 81, went into effect in 82, in 1984, GDP grew at a 7.5% rate for the year. So President Trump copied that. The tax cuts went into effect in January. It takes a couple of months for everything to sort of filter through a little bit. So by the second quarter of this year, GDP was just reported last week, is growing at a 4.1% rate. My view is that that rate will continue or even be a little bit higher in this current quarter, and that plus 4% growth range rate will continue at least for the next couple of years. One of the reasons why that's so important is I take a look at many of my graduates and college graduates from other universities. For the last 10 years, because of the slow economy, there hasn't been very much opportunity for them. So as a result, a large number of recent college graduates were forced to accept jobs for which they were overqualified. So that results in what we call underemployment.
Yeah.
Because they took those jobs, the people with less than a college degree didn't have any opportunity at all. They ended up dropping out of the workforce, becoming what we refer to as discouraged workers. So the labor force participation rate, percent of adults who are either working or actively looking for work, was at historically low levels. Because the growth is now starting and we're getting to what I would refer to as real economic prosperity, the underemployed college graduates are going to find opportunities more suited to their qualifications. They'll leave the jobs for which they were overqualified. That means the discouraged workers will now see opportunities and they'll come back to the workforce. This started, it can easily be seen rather, in the month of June's employment numbers. We added over 200,000 new jobs, yet the unemployment rate went up. Why was that? Because 500,000 of these discouraged workers came back into the workforce. So it's really a good sign now. I think we're on the verge of some real economic prosperity. I think underemployed workers will start to see better opportunities at higher incomes, more suited to the education level that they have. And discouraged workers who didn't have any opportunities at all are going to see some opportunities for them. They'll get back into the workforce. Already that's had a somewhat positive effect. The number of people that need food stamps has dropped dramatically. The number of people that need welfare is starting to go down. So people that were relying on government assistance just to make ends meet are now contributing members of society, carrying their own weight, paying some taxes. That's going to help, of course, the government budget situation. I am more optimistic about the economy now than I have been in nearly 20 years.
Holy cow. I mean, what can I say? That was a great synopsis of where we've been, where we are, and where we're probably going to be heading. Dr. Bussler, let me ask you some very unintelligent and naive questions, because I'm not even in your ballpark with your education. But let me ask you this. With sometime we haven't had this kind of growth. We were 8 years with the Obama administration with nothing, and in a year and a half, we have seen the Trump administration turn things around to the point where people have an attitude that maybe America can come back and thrive again. Why would anyone in their right mind listen to the Democrats, whether it's Schumer or Pelosi or whomever, with a sales pitch of, oh, please put us back in office with the blue wave and we'll turn things around? I don't want things to turn around.
I don't either, and I've been saying all along, I think in this November's election, while the Democrats believe there'll be a blue wave and maybe they'll take control of the House again, maybe even the Senate, I think exactly the opposite. The third quarter GDP number will come out at the end of October, about 10 days before the election. I think it's going to show growth greater than the 4.1% that we saw in the second quarter. So Republicans will just run on, listen, vote for us, and we'll keep doing what we're doing. Not one Democrat voted for the tax cut. And the policies, as you mentioned, that the Democrats are advocating are, again, looking at social issues which primarily benefit the bottom 15% of income earners, often at the expense of the rest of us, because we have to pay for that. So I'm not sure what the Democrats are going to run on in November. So far, all they're running on is not Trump.
Yeah.
Resist Trump. He's a bad person. He's bad for the country. But I think people are starting to scratch their heads saying, maybe he's not so bad for the country. Look at how the economy is being turned around. He's taking a more forceful approach in foreign policy. And while it sometimes makes us a little nervous, the results he gets seem to be positive. Korea is at least coming to the table and talking about denuclearization. Mm-hmm. The Iran deal, which looked to be a pretty bad deal, he got out of, and he'll put sanctions on Iran. Their economy is already in trouble. It will be in more trouble in the next few months as the sanctions kick in, and I think they're going to come to the table to negotiate too. In spite of what the mainstream media says, he's been very tough on Russia in terms of sanctions. He bombed in Syria, which killed about 100 Russians. He went to NATO and convinced them to spend more money to defend themselves against Russian aggression. He talked to Merkel of Germany and said, listen, it's not such a good idea for you to build a pipeline to Russia and depend on Russia for about 70% of your energy needs. So they're starting to talk about that. So people are going to say in November, hey, the economy's good and it appears to be getting better. Foreign policy, we seem to be getting a little better in resolving some of our conflicts there. I don't know what the Democrats are really going to run on, and I think the Republicans are going to do real well. I wouldn't be surprised to see 57, maybe 58 senators after the election, and in spite of what the mainstream media says, I think the Republicans are going to increase their majority in the House of Representatives.
Let me ask you this question, and I'm certainly not trying to throw water on everything that you've said this morning, but I've got to ask this. With the tax cuts and with the economy booming and people investing and businesses are growing and adding more employees and a more optimistic outlook for the future, what are your concerns as an economist that all of a sudden we're going to be fueling inflation and maybe see the bubble burst?
Well, inflation is always an issue when the economy starts growing. If it gets too overheated, you could run into an inflationary problem. Fortunately, the Federal Reserve is on top of this. Interest rates, which were brought down to virtually zero to try to get us out of the recession and offset some of the negative economic policy that the prior administration had, interest rates are starting to go up now, and they're still at historically low levels, so they really need to go up a little bit to keep the inflation from turning out to be a serious problem. So I think the Federal Reserve will probably raise rates 1 or 2 times more in the fall, and maybe a couple of times next year. Now, we're still not at any dangerously high levels. The 10-year Treasury bill is still under 3%. Historically, 3% is the average. Historically, if mortgage rates are below 6%, the housing market tends to do fairly well. We're still somewhat below 6%. So I think there's room for the Federal Reserve to move interest rates up. I think they're doing it gradually and cautiously. They don't want to put a damper on the growth, but they do want to watch inflation. I think they're doing a real good job of that. And if something looks to be an issue, I think they'll be on it. The other cloud that may be a problem is trade policy.
Right.
I'm a free market economist. Whenever anybody mentions tariffs or taxes, my stomach starts to churn a little bit. But President Trump, I believe, is going about this the right way. His goal is to get free trade that's fair, and really, he would like to see no tariffs on anything. Politically, I'm not sure that's possible, but that's what he'd like to try for. So he got into office, he took a look at the trade agreements with the European Union and NAFTA, for instance, and they're all lopsided in favor of our trading partners. For instance, the Europeans make a car, sell it in the U.S., we charge a 2.5% tariff. Americans make a car in the U.S., sell it in Europe, they charge a 10% tariff. Well, the result is we're buying a lot of their cars. They're not buying very many of ours. So money is flowing out of the country to the tune of hundreds of billions of dollars per year. So President Trump said, look, and NAFTA is the same way. With Canada and Mexico, they have a much more favorable position than we do. So Trump said, look, we have to resolve this, and we have to do it quickly. Now, he's not a politician. A politician would say, well, let's convene a summit sometime in the fall. We'll bring our economic experts together. We'll reconvene sometime next year. We'll discuss it with the leaders. By the end of next year, we'll think about it. And then at the end, they decide, well, let's kick the can down the road for the next president to solve it because this is too tough of an issue. President Trump, not a politician, is a business person. A business person sees a problem and confronts it quickly, mostly because a problem will have a negative impact on the bottom line, and the business person is concerned with the bottom line. So if a problem comes about, he wants to confront it and resolve it quickly. So he said, well, how do I bring our trading partners to the table quickly to resolve this? If I just ask them, they're not going to do it because they're in such favorable position. They'll stall as long as they can. So what a business person does in a situation like that is creates a sense of urgency. So how did he do that? He said, I'm putting big tariffs on everything. It's going to end up hurting, for instance, the Chinese and the Europeans more than it'll hurt us, and that will create a sense of urgency and bring them to the table. 2 weeks ago, the head of the European Union comes, they have a discussion, they come out and say, hey, we're going to work towards zero tariffs on everything, just what Trump wants. Last Thursday or Friday, the president of Mexico said, you know, we're going to have to get together with Canada and the U.S. quickly to resolve this NAFTA issue.
Right. Mm-hmm.
So his trade policy, while it seems, and it is, counterproductive to free markets, he's trying to bring everybody to the table quickly. And he's motivating them by putting on tariffs that really are going to hurt everybody, but it will encourage people to come to the table quickly. I think before the end of the year, you're going to see some agreements with the European Union and a renegotiation of NAFTA. There'll be some short-term pain for this year, but once those agreements are negotiated and they're free as well as fair, the long-term growth aspects are good for the U.S.
Let me ask you one final thought, and I've got about 3.5 minutes left, Dr. Bussler, but I don't want to bring negativity into this, but I believe that we have another problem in this country, and the problem is a lack of a workforce. We've got businesses that want to expand. We've got businesses that want more employees. We've got businesses that have higher goals for the future, but they can't find the workers. We've got a lot of people that have been on the dole for so many years and really have eliminated themselves from the workforce. How are we going to reinstill a work ethic in this country to get people to get off the dole and get back to work and make something of themselves?
Well, there are two things here, and you're right to say that labor shortages are a real concern. That could lead to an inflationary problem, and it could also lead to slowing down the economy. So what do we have to do? All of these people who, for in some cases, generations have been on the government dole, they're going to have to get back into the workforce. So the two things are important. One, have growth in the economy so they see there's opportunity. And two, you have to be a little bit of tough love here, saying, look, we've been paying for you for all these years. There's opportunity. We're going to cut off paying for you. So get out there and take a look and see what's available. We also have programs involved that will help train you. If you don't have the skills, there are programs we have that will train you to get a skill and be able to take advantage of this growth opportunity that will be presented to you.
Absolutely. One final thought here. What about with this booming economy and the growth factor, et cetera? What about the programs like Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid? Are they going to be having more funds provided to keep those solvent for the future?
Well, The answer is yes, they will, but under the current structure, they won't be solvent into the future. So some things are going to have to change. Although it's extremely unpopular, the retirement age, which has been eking up a little bit, is going to have to go up significantly, probably to 70 or 72 or maybe even a little bit higher. When Social Security was put in 1935, people retired at 65. The average life expectancy was 67. They only collected for an average of a couple of years. Today, people are retiring at technically 66 is the retirement age, but they're retiring at 66. They're living to be 75, 85, 95, some people over 100. Well, we can't sustain having somebody work 40 years and collect Social Security for 40 years. So we're going to have to change that by raising the retirement age, and there may be a few other things they can do to keep those programs solvent. But those are major issues that have to be addressed, both those programs. Whatever they do, it will not affect anybody who's currently collecting Social Security or Medicare. It won't affect them at all. Anything they're going to do will affect people probably 55 years old or younger, to simply say you're going to have to retire at a little older age.
I wish, and I really mean this when I say this, I wish I would have had you for my economics teacher back in high school, and maybe I would have gotten better than a C+.
Oh, thank you.
You're very welcome. Great economics expert and public policy analyst, Dr. Michael Busler. Please come back in the future. You're always welcome on this show.
I certainly will, Zeb. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Thank you, sir. I learn from that man every time he's on the air. Very optimistic, very information forthcoming, and I appreciate everything he says. Dr. Michael Busler. Let's see what we've got cooking here. I've got another word. Oh, I want to talk to you real quick about a friend of mine that absolutely has a phenomenal business at 1027 Overland in Burley. It's Anthony with Save On Shells. Oh, if you're looking for a camper shell, I'll guarantee you he handles the ARE, the very best in the industry. And you talk about a man that really is diligent and cares about his customers, and he goes that extra mile. It's Anthony at Save On Shells. Please stop in at 1027 Overland in Burley, or call him on his cell phone, 312-1525. 312-1525. The very best. I bought one, I know. Save On Shells with Anthony at 1027 Overland in Burley. We are going to take a little break and send it back over to our main studios, and then we're going to come back and talk to a person that's been on my program many, many times, Tom Harris, and talk about global warming or not, and that'll be coming up in about 3 minutes. Right now, Wheels, take it away.
And now, back to Zeb at the Ranch on AM 1230 KVAR. To reach Zeb, call 436-2244 or toll free 1-866-927-4587. And now, here is Zeb.
Oh, thank you. Welcome back to our last half hour. And before we get our guest on the line, I want to mention the Bennett Boys Auction Service. They're going to have a great big warehouse closeout auction. It's going to be 10 o'clock this Saturday, August 4th, and it's in Twin Falls at 139 3rd Avenue South. Look for the signs from the Depot Grill, go north 3 blocks, then east a half a block, lunch by the Cook Shack. They're going to have antiques and collectibles. They're going to have glassware, antique furniture. Oh, yeah, all kinds of goodies. Furniture, household items, sporting goods, tools, you name it. The great big warehouse closeout auction. This coming Saturday at 10 a.m. in Twin Falls on 139 3rd Avenue South. The Bennett Boys Auction Service. No sale too big, no sale too small. The Bennett Boys, they sell them all. Absolutely. Right now, a friend of ours that's been on this program before, and I just thank the good Lord above, we've got more people like him that are standing up and saying, oh, come on, Al Gore, what are you talking about? And others that are saying the sky is falling like Chicken Little. We say a good morning to Tom Harris. Good morning, sir. How are you?
Pretty good. How are you, Zeb?
Well, you are the executive director of the International Climate Science Coalition, and I've got to ask you, what does that mean?
Well, in 2007, the New Zealand Climate Science Coalition found there was so much support for their nonpartisan approach, science-based approach to climate change. You know, it wasn't left-wing or right-wing. It was just based on real observations. But they needed a group to represent them internationally at conferences like the UN conferences. So they brought on me as eventually as head of the International Climate Science Coalition, and we have about 25 advisors, you know, leading experts from across the world. And we try to promote the idea that look at the real data. Don't look at what the computer models are saying. Look at the fact that Idaho, for example, I have on the screen here, when your extreme weather records were set, maximum temperature, 118 degrees in 1934. You know, those kinds of things kind of throw the climate scare down the drain.
Why is it, and Tom, nobody can answer this better than you because you have all the data and the information, but why is it that our American public is so easily duped into thinking that the Chicken Little syndrome with Al Gore, etc., and the sky is falling, and the climate crisis is the biggest challenge to humanity ever? Why do they buy into this?
Well, there's two main reasons. One of the reasons is that most of the media are left of center, and the environmentalists have succeeded in making this a left-wing ideal. So even media that don't understand the issue will just automatically agree with Al Gore. But, you know, it's pretty silly because, I mean, the climate scare actually violates many of the causes the left say they hold dear. For example, if you believe the climate scare, then we would stop burning coal and we would put up wind turbines. And you know, in Ontario, we did that. We got rid of all of our coal stations because we were going to lead the world on climate change. And that was in 2002. We started to close them down. Our electricity prices are now 200% higher.
Wow.
And, of course, that hurts the poor more than anybody. So, you know, there's all kinds of things that happen if you believe the climate scare, and they go against the causes that the left said they hold dear. Now, the other reason is because there is so much money to be made. I mean, there's $1 billion a day being spent on climate finance around the world right now. And, you know, some of the groups that are promoting this scare have enormous funding. You know, typically, Zeb, when a group starts up, they'll have $1,000 in the bank and 5 volunteers. Well, Climate Works Foundation was given over $500 million to start up in 2008. And ever since then, they've been getting tens of millions a year. So they can buy a lot of press releases.
Absolutely. Tom, let me ask you this. Why is there such a big push by the left, whether it's the Al Gores or whomever, or even the Pope? Why is there such a big push to believe in climate change? Why is there such a big push to accept climate change? And why is there such a big push to go and make us all into third world country recipients of what it'll do? Is it all about control?
Yeah, that's a major factor, okay? A lot of the left thinks that the government runs our society, including the energy infrastructure, that the government runs our society better. You know, coal, for example, is a good illustration of what happens when you let private enterprise just do their own thing. I mean, coal, you know, the United States has more coal reserves than any country on earth, and it's one of the major reasons why you have a significant trade advantage with Europe. You know, so, I mean, that's a free enterprise success story. But, of course, Obama wanted to close them down and to force the construction of wind turbines, which require massive government subsidies just to survive, and thereby bring the energy infrastructure under more government control. And I think that's one of the major objectives for the left.
Let me ask you this, and I'm sure you've thought about it, maybe even have spoken about it at various locations, but I'll bet you break out in a cold sweat to the point where you probably have to take a deodorant stick with you when you think that Hillary might have been president.
Yeah, that would have been a disaster. I mean, she would have made Obama look, right-wing on this issue. You know, she's not necessarily right-wing on other issues, but certainly, or left-wing. But, I mean, she basically would have gone nuts on the climate issue. And she said, and this is one thing that really hurt her, is that she was going to put a lot of coal miners out of work. So, they were so confident she was going to win that I think a lot of her supporters didn't bother to vote. So thank goodness that was the case.
Let me ask you this. We're seeing a warm summer. right here. We've had about 21 days of in the 90s. It's summertime, and some of the old sages I've talked to said, well, now, wait a minute, son. Don't forget the weather's going to change in the fall, and we might have an extreme winter to counteract what you saw during the summer. What are your thoughts about the climate change as far as hot summers across the United States? What are your thoughts?
Well, I have a graph on the screen here which shows U.S. annual heat wave index, 1895 to 2015. And what it shows is that it spiked around 1930 to 1938. Okay, so that's when the heat wave index spiked. And, we're often not given the whole story. When there are heat waves, for example, in the United States, it was mostly in the Northeast, okay? Mm-hmm. You're not told. For example, did you know that on July 3rd, Eugene, Oregon, set its coldest July morning ever in 107 years. It was 38 degrees Fahrenheit.
Wow.
Okay, and at the same time, 21 of the remote automated weather stations across eastern Oregon recorded below freezing temperatures. So the media are very selective in what they tell you. If you actually look at the map of the U.S. temperature on July 3rd, for example, a huge region, almost half the country, was below normal temperatures. Everywhere stretching from, looks like North Dakota and Idaho and all these states up there. Yeah, Idaho definitely was way below average.
Right.
And yet those things are simply not given to you in the press.
Tom, when you do your research on all this, surely you have to go back to one issue that is always getting negativity and creating negativity, and that's our education systems and our schools, whether elementary, high school, or college. The teachers in those schools, fresh out of their teaching awareness in colleges and universities, are coming to our kids and preaching that the sky is falling with global warming and climate change. We're not going to get this thing turned around until we revamp some of our education.
Yeah, that's right. I was a sessional lecturer at Carleton University where I taught earth sciences, climate change, to about 1,500 students over 4 years because we did it via television, and it was interesting because we were broadcast, people could pick us up all over the world. And many of the students were completely brainwashed into the idea that we were causing dangerous climate change, and they were astounded by the course. I mean, Dr. Tim Patterson was the originator of the course. He's a geologist. And, of course, geologists, generally speaking, don't look on today's climate change as being anything unusual. They go back in time and show that CO2 was 1,100% of today's levels millions of years ago and much hotter. I mean, there were times when the whole planet was covered with ice, according to some scientists, and there were times when there was no ice anywhere, even in the high mountains. So, I mean, they look at today's climate changes and they laugh. They say, it's trivial.
Well, Tom, what about the situation of what do they want? Now, I want to kind of give a explanation as to what I mean. The climate complainers, like the Al Gores and others of his ilk, what do they really want? We say control, but are they going to provide an optimum of weather as far as maybe 73 degrees every day with sunshine all over the world? What do they want?
Well, I don't think they really know what they want in some cases. I mean, they want to be supporting the environment. A lot of them have good motives. I mean, some of them have ulterior motives that are just simply making money. But I think many people actually believe that we are causing dangerous climate change. So I'm reluctant to attribute bad motives to them. But all they have to do really is look at the real data. I mean, since 1880, even NASA GISS, the Goddard Institute for Space Studies, and nobody would accuse them of being climate deniers, they show that the temperature that they calculate for the total Earth and ocean temperature is about 1 degree Celsius warmer in 2017 than it was in 1880. 1 degree, okay? And in that period, we've had a 40% rise in CO2. So, if that's what we get with a 40% rise, then that's nothing to be concerned about. In fact, that's the whole point, I think, Zeb, in this debate, is if you actually look at the real data, extreme weather data, sea level, is it accelerating or not? It's hard to say, but there was about a 7-inch rise over the last century. It's very small, much, much less than thousands of years ago when there was a lot more ice to melt. And so what we find is that when you look at the real data, there's almost nothing going on. The whole climate scare is based on computer model forecasts of the future. That's it. There's really nothing else. And if you look at those models, you can see that they are falling very far short of actually forecasting reality. So we're going to spend $1 billion a day based on climate models that don't work. I mean, that doesn't make any sense.
Tom, what about, and let's address this issue, because the left has really tried to promote and push climate change as the number one scary issue, but they, the left, have also lied. They've had a lot of phony and falsified data that's been fed to the public that has been proven false. What about all the lies that they've promoted?
Yeah, the whole issue of the hockey stick and these different things, I mean, it's a very complicated issue. And so rather than comment on the lies, I think it would be better for me to comment on what they're actually saying. I mean, they are saying that the temperature has risen 1 degree. And they're probably exaggerating. And as you suggest, they're probably lying about a lot of the data. But even if you take their actual data and you believe it, there's still nothing going on. I mean, 1 degree Celsius change coming out of the Little Ice Age, which was a miserable time to be around, is really trivial. And that's where, I don't get into the lies business, because, I mean, a lot of them just make mistakes, or they actually believe what they're saying. But even if you take what they're saying, the climate change recently has been trivial. It's nothing to get concerned about. And that's why, I actually focus more on, okay, if what you say is true, then so what? 7-inch rise in sea level, 1 degree rise in temperature, no extreme weather increases. So what? And that's where the whole thing kind of falls apart, because you don't even have to argue with them about their data, because if you just accept it, it's still trivial.
Why would you say the people like Tom Steyer's and even the Vatican with the Pope, why are they jumping on the climate change bandwagon? For what purpose? For what benefit?
Well, I think part of it is control. I think part of it is belief that the West have somehow been evil in our industrialization, and we have to be punished and transfer our wealth to the developing countries. It's interesting. China now puts out twice as much greenhouse gases as the United States, and yet under the Paris Agreement, China can increase its emissions all the way to 2030, and even then they don't really have to, because there's an out clause for them. The United States, if you had stayed in the Paris Agreement, we're expected to start cutting right away. So I think a lot of it has to do with transfer of wealth. I think that's a major factor. There are other things, for example, various industries, the wind power industry, the solar industry, the nuclear industry, stand to make enormous benefits if we move away from fossil fuels, because fossil fuels are contributing about 80% of the world's energy.
Right.
And yet the demonized factor is their CO2 emissions. And this is also a place where the left, rather than argue with them, I think we have to just simply show them that CO2 is not a pollutant. CO2 is plant food. And, the evidence is that, in fact, we've seen a massive increase in crop yield across the world as a result of this 40% rise in CO2. What people don't seem to realize is that if CO2 were to double, the benefits to the natural world, in particular crops and plants, would be huge, huge. Because what happens as CO2 increases, and they've done lots of experiments in greenhouses where they double, triple, quadruple the CO2 level, what you find is that plants grow much more quickly, they need less water, and so the forecast is that as CO2 rises, parts of the world that currently cannot grow plants because they're too dry will then become able to grow plants. So if we're going to feed the billions of people that have yet to be born, we should hope that CO2 rises.
Yeah, but there's
something that would be a great benefit. It makes plants much more tolerant to drought. It increases their growth rate, the size of their leaves, their flowers, everything. It's pretty astounding, and it's not just one or two studies. It's thousands of studies that show that CO2 rise is and will be a very big benefit.
Well, there's no question about that, and the overinflating numbers of people that are going to need a good, solid agricultural program in the future. But when the idiots of climate change start saying we've got to go solar and we've got to go wind power only, how, my dear friend Tom Harris, are we going to push a John Deere tractor down the field with a propeller?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, the bottom line is the world is wealthy mostly because of fossil fuels. It's an incredibly convenient source of power. Wind and solar are very variable, and they cost a fortune to get even small amounts of electricity. So, yeah, there is no real viable alternative right now to fossil fuels. Biofuels is a bad idea because, of course, what you're doing is you're converting food crops to fuel.
Right.
That causes price increases across the world in food. And, in fact, even the UN has said that this, the rapporteur for food, he was saying it's a crime against humanity when you convert food crops to fuel. And so, yeah, one of the things that's strange, Deb, is that many of the consequences of the climate scare go against the causes that the left say they hold dear. And that's another example. Okay, biofuels to supposedly stop climate change. Yeah, and food prices go through the roof.
Yep. Absolutely. Boy, I tell you what, you've got to make it a more frequent trip to come on this program. Tom Harris, Executive Director of the International Climate Science Coalition. God bless you, sir. I appreciate your straight approach on this. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you, Zeb.
Thank you, sir. There's some straight answers, and I hope the Times News locally was listening with that newspaper. Maybe they might learn something about climate change. Right now, we got to get a weather forecast on here, and it's brought to you by our friends at Scarrows Meats. Hello, Don Scarrow and the crew at 331 North Road, Jerome. You can go to their website, scarrowsmeats.com, and learn all about all the great meats that they have over there. It's barbecue season. People getting outside. They've got the marinated pork ribs for only $1.99 per pound. They are so good. And they've got barbecue packages, including, the beef, pork, and the chicken. You got to check these out. Give them a call today at 324-7657. Scarrows Meats, 331 North Road, Jerome. And right now, here's Gina with the weather.
Here's your weather forecast for this Wednesday, and again, smoky conditions as we have a big fire burning up in the Wood River Valley, and then, of course, we've got the Grouse Creek fire burning over the border in Utah and Nevada. So we are expecting some more isolated showers and thunderstorms by this afternoon, about a 20% chance of precipitation. Smoke will continue to linger. However, it is supposed to be mostly sunny and hot, expecting a high of 97, slightly breezy as well. Tonight, more isolated rain showers and thunderstorms are a possibility before midnight. Partly cloudy skies with a low of 64. Tomorrow, again, 20% chance of rain showers and thunderstorms in the afternoon. It is going to be smoky, mostly sunny skies, expecting a high of 92. Winds are going to be out of the east, right around 10 miles an hour. Gusts is possible, 22 miles an hour. For Friday, sunny skies, cooling down to 87. Saturday, sunny skies, mid-80s. That's your weather forecast for Zeb at the Range.
Oh, Gina, thank you. Excellent job. And, folks, I want to remind you out there, please, there's a lot of closures that have been put forth by the BLM and the Forest Service, and I urge you to call them and find out about these closures. So I'm going to try to have somebody on the air tomorrow morning talking about that with all the dangerous fire conditions in southern Idaho. Don't forget the weather brought to you by Scarrows Meats, 331 North Road, Jerome. The number to call, 324-7657. Don Scarrow and his great crew, always changing the way we eat, one delicious bite at a time. Scarrows Meats. Whew, got time for a call. Quickly, give me a jingle, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Today, Wednesday, let's see, the live display of antique tractors and engines starts at 1 o'clock over at the Minidoka County Fair. 5:30 p.m. tonight, Lions Barbecue Dinner. Oh, that's going to be good. All you can eat. And then they're going to have that great, big, delicious cobbler and ice cream. And, of course, don't forget, too, the Junior Rodeo starts tonight. All kinds of good things at the Minidoka County Fair and Rodeo. I want to remind you, while I'm waiting for your calls, about our major sponsor, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers, and thank them for all they do. I believe, Deanne, isn't it right that Randy's going to be on the program with us tomorrow? Yep, Randy Wynn from Tires West is going to be there. If you're getting ready for a road trip and you're heading out of the country, maybe to go back east to Kansas or Wisconsin or down to Albuquerque, New Mexico, it doesn't make any difference. If you got a road trip planned before the kids go back to school, stop in and check out all the great tires for your vehicle, be it a car, SUV, pickup, whatever, at your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers, many of which are on sale right now, so get in there and check it out. And while you're there, be sure you're safe. Check out the brakes and the front end alignment, the shocks and the struts and the batteries, all of this and more at your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. Lane and Rupert, Dave on Blue Lakes and Twin, Mike and Buell, Mike and Jerome, the Twist family in Paul, Daniel on Poline in Twin Falls, and Randy on Overland in Burley. Up, absolutely the best, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. Tomorrow on the program, what have we got? We have, of course, the open forum first thing in the morning, and then the Chamber of Commerce report at 9:06. Cassia Regional Hospital, learn more about your friends and neighbors serving you at 9:17. Lovely Rita Ramsey will be on the air at 9:30. And then at 10:10, we've got Cassia County School Days, followed by our Business Salute. And Deanne, I forgot who is going to be on the air at 10:30 tomorrow. Do you have that information quickly over there? And that's going to round out our program for tomorrow. And my lovely bride of 46 years tells me that at 10:30 tomorrow, we're going to have Jeremy Dice, and also possibly Kelly Shackelford, President and CEO of First Liberty Institute, but it's going to be Jeremy Dice, thank you. And we're going to be talking about, let me see what the subject matter is, Jeff Sessions and the Religious Liberty Task Force. So we'll look forward to that tomorrow on our program. We've had a lot of people call and say, let me get your cow pies and coffee cups that we print weekly, our weekly blog. All you have to do is go to zebbell.com and put your address in there, and you will get it. I cannot believe how many, literally thousands and thousands of people are on that list, and add your name to it. It comes out on Fridays, normally Saturdays sometime, cow pies and coffee cups. We're going to let it go for today and remind you that we'll be here tomorrow morning at 8:06 on K-Bar, 12:30 a.m., and then streaming live on the internet all over the world, zebbell.com. And don't forget our slogan at the end of every show, and it's really true. The way things were are the way things ought to be, and the world needs more cowboys. Have a great day. God bless. We'll see you tomorrow morning at 8:06.